Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for August 19th, 2026. Today, we're going to take a look at a potential new threat brewing for Hawaii on the heels of Hurricane Lala as the Eastern Pacific continues to become more active. Plus, a look at the Atlantic, which is also seeing a signal which is increasing and becoming more certain in the models, potentially for activity next week, as the peak of the hurricane season is just about upon us. So, lots to get over today. Let's start off by taking a look at the bulletin for the National Hurricane Center right now in the Atlantic. Nothing expected here over the next week, although as I've been saying, and once again as I will say, that is probably going to change. And I've said that before, especially 2 weeks ago when we had our initial MDR signals earlier in the month, and obviously they failed. But there's another signal that is appearing in the long range that the models, especially today, are really all beginning to come into agreement with for next week. And I do think that that'll genuinely give us a chance here for development, more than likely in the MDR, and we will be pretty much baked into the ramp up leading to the peak of the hurricane season, which once again starts tomorrow, since tomorrow is August 20th. So I do think this bulletin here in the Atlantic will very likely change in the coming days. The Eastern Pacific, though, already very active right now. We have two areas we are watching. One of them, Invest 90E, and this is yet again going to be something we will need to watch for because it could have impacts to Hawaii just days after Hurricane Lala moved over the Hawaiian Islands, or moved very close to the Hawaiian Islands. We didn't necessarily get a head-on direct landfall, but we did get 4 feet of rain. So you guys in Hawaii definitely don't need another storm right now, but Mother Nature probably is not caring or not listening, and we are going to have to watch Invest 90E here, and I'll show you what the models show and the track guidance in just a little bit. Lala, though, on the other hand, the storm that we were talking about, especially last week for Hawaii, right now it is at maximum sustained winds of 120 miles an hour, so it is a major hurricane, and luckily it intensified to a major hurricane as it moved away from the Hawaiian Islands. And it's going to continue to move away from land and not be of any threat to any major population centers. So not really much to worry about with Lala, but we will take a look at the track and how it's doing in just a moment. First off, though, a satellite shot of the Eastern Pacific, and you can see it is definitely becoming very convectively active right now, as the MJO is pretty much baking itself into the Eastern and Central Pacific thanks to the La Nina, and you're seeing that as a response with all this convective activity here, and eventually we probably will see some more bubbling in terms of actual named storms here in the Eastern Pacific, but just to the west, especially as we get towards the Central Pacific, we already have something that is on the verge of developing. This feature here is Invest 90E, this very large feature, very convectively active, and you could just definitely tell it is a storm in the making. It already kind of has a band shape developing as well, and quite some impressive outflow on the northern flank. So this tells me that any environmental conditions in the area are definitely favorable for development, and we probably will get it because it is at a 90% chance after all, and we're probably just about a day away or so from seeing development. And then Hurricane Lala here to the west of the Hawaiian Islands now, moving roughly to the northwest, kind of also in a more northerly direction too now. And it also is looking like a pretty impressive storm today, although it did look a little bit more impressive yesterday, and it's now starting to get sheared a little bit from the south. But it was able to become a major hurricane, and luckily that happened out to sea and after it passed Hawaii. So not going to be any more significant in that regards, but probably will be a pretty decent ace maker to add on to the totals for the Eastern Pacific over the next few days here. But 90E is going to be the next feature to watch. And taking a look at the vorticity map, kind of a way we can look at things in terms of how a structure is getting going beneath the clouds, see how much spin there is in the atmosphere. And Look at that, right near 140 West here, right where Invest 90E is. There's definitely quite a decent vorticity signature right now. Definitely has some more developing to do, but you're already starting to see vorticity concentrate, and we're probably going to continue to see that happen here over the next few days, and probably very soon we're going to get a vorticity signature that resembles much more of what Hurricane Lala has right now. Very classic, round, defined signature with very strong vorticity values. That's what you need to look for when you're looking at the vorticity map to see development of a tropical system, and that is certainly what we are probably seeing beginning to occur here with 90E. So let's take a look at what the model shows right now, starting off with the GFS here in the Central Pacific. Let's see what happens here over the next day or so, and already seemingly, again, by tomorrow, we already start to see a closed circulation probably develop in the low levels. So wouldn't be surprised, honestly, by tomorrow evening we get a depression, and then that strengthens decently over the next few days, and we probably get a tropical storm. But the GFS on this run seemingly keeping 90E to the south, and not getting as close to the Hawaiian Islands on this run, which is obviously a good thing, because again, Lala, we just dealt with the impacts and implications from Lala, but I would be very cautious in thinking that this is going to last, because this only gets in the vicinity of Hawaii roughly 4 to 5 days out still. So 4 to 5 days out in hurricane tracking time is an eternity. So lots can change here, and let's take a look at another model here. The European, on the other hand, well, they're actually not showing this staying to the south. The European on the 12Z run still indicating that 90E here heads directly for the Hawaiian Islands here. So you're seeing a disagreement in the models. So you can't be certain about any one outcome yet, but as long as the chances there for potential impact to the Hawaiian Islands, we have to keep a close eye out on the models here, and definitely have to keep out for any potential trends either to the north, meaning, maybe potentially more models like the GFS coming towards the European solution like we have now, or maybe, hopefully, and this will be the preferred solution, obviously, model like the European trending south, and keeping most of the impacts south of Hawaii, like the GFS shows. But Hawaii absolutely needs to be keeping a very close eye out here on 90E very closely. Again, we just came off of the heels of Hurricane Lala, which obviously dumped 4 feet of rain nearly on the big island of Hawaii, and even upwards of 2 feet of rain in isolated pockets spread out throughout the other islands. So again, there's still lots of mess to clean up. The ground is still saturated, oversaturated, definitely. Infrastructure is probably very weakened. Things are in a very vulnerable state for Hawaii, so you do not need another storm to add insult to injury too. And speaking of the moisture, that probably would be the biggest impact once again here, because there's just a lot of moisture that comes with these tropical cyclones. And look at that, the relative humidity here. Again, lots of moisture would be brought, even though more than likely what we'll be dealing with is probably not going to be a very, very strong storm. In fact, you do see that there is dry air to the south of 90E here being indicated on the European. So probably not looking at a very strong storm. But the one thing that would probably be helping it and probably be propping it up impact-wise would be the rainfall again, which once again, we literally just came off of Lala, which dumped 4 feet of rain. So not a good situation at all if that were to happen. But again, there's still a lot of uncertainty here. Taking a look at the model track guidance right now, and this is actually as of the 18Z run, so this is a little bit of a run ahead compared to the European and the GFS. And all of the models on the 18Z run actually keep this just to the south of Hawaii. But again, we still have a huge envelope of the track guidance here. So there's still lots of uncertainty. So as long as the track guidance here at least shows a solution that gets the storm close to Hawaii, I do believe 90E is a potential threat, and something that we're going to have to watch here over the next 4 to 5 days, probably once again for the weekend, just like Lala. So Please keep an eye out on the tropics. And unfortunately, this is probably something that's going to become more common here, especially as we get in towards the meat and potatoes of the peak of the season in the Pacific. And, we are in a super El Nino after all, and it's looking like it is finally beginning to rear its head, its ugly head. And I kind of expected that something like this would happen, especially with the setup we have in the Pacific because of the El Nino this year. So we'll have to keep an eye out on activity in general over the next few days and probably the next few weeks here. And I wanted to show you here the ensemble package from the Google AI. Obviously, first of all, to show the ensembles here near Hawaii, and most of them generally keep it just to the south, but there are a few ensembles on the Google AI still that potentially show a track here of 90E closer, if not maybe potentially once again directly over Hawaii. But look at all the activity that comes afterwards. Lots of signals here, probably more signals of strong storms as well. Definitely not looking like a good situation that'll be setting up here in the Pacific, and definitely something that will absolutely keep you on your toes for the next few weeks. So we will all be watching what unfolds here in the Pacific, especially when it comes to Hawaii, and probably for Mexico too down the line, especially once we get towards mid and late September into October. Mexico is not entirely off the hook, and we're probably going to start seeing things change in that regards as well. But of course, we will get to it when it happens. Moving on to the Atlantic now, though. Want to keep things moving here. The Atlantic, too, potentially might come into the cards starting around next week, although things are still a little bit on the quiet side. But again, we're still just going to have to keep watching these tropical waves as they continue to move off the coast of Africa. Looks like there's a tropical wave right now in the eastern Atlantic, and the GFS for the last few days was very adamant on something coming out of this tropical wave development-wise, but none of the other models are really picking up on it. But once again, you still have these other aggressive waves which are coming off the coast of Africa right now. Definitely one beefy one getting ready to come off, and vorticity-wise too, you could see definitely a vorticity signature here. And that's what these tropical waves are. They are impulses of energy, seedlings, which is why, we refer to tropical waves as kind of like the main source of where we see development for tropical systems. And I'm going to keep saying it, but eventually as we progress further and further into August, and again, tomorrow, August 20th, is the start of the climatological ramp-up for the peak of the hurricane season. You would think at least one of these waves would break through. So we'll continue to have to watch and see when does that happen, and we'll continue to have to watch these waves here. Although the one that's coming off the coast of Africa right now in the eastern Atlantic here, you can see that there is definitely some vorticity, but nothing too solid just yet. But does that change here over the next week? Let's take a look at the GFS and see whether or not it does. And still today, the GFS is adamant on this first wave here, which starts getting going roughly by the time we get to this weekend. Although, obviously, as it gets further west here, it struggles. And I guess the GFS is finally coming more to reality with that, instead of showing a hurricane here roughly about, once we get towards the end of the week, as all the other model runs of the GFS have been showing. But none of the other models absolutely whatsoever show this first wave here. But you do see that there's another wave right behind that. And that actually develops pretty nicely here and actually becomes quite a strong storm. And that roughly is a wave that moves off the coast about a week out. So now we are in literally the last few days of August here. So more than likely, whatever does come out of this wave, you would think would have probably a better shot at doing something, just by the fact that we will be in late August, and climatology-wise, conditions should be much more favorable. But other models are also latching on to this other signal here too. This first wave, again, is kind of just something that the GFS is mainly cooking up, but the second wave here is something that the other models are starting to latch on. And you can see that too with the 12Z European. Very aggressive, in fact, probably a little bit too aggressive. The European kind of has a little bit of bias in showing tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa too strongly here. I mean, literally, it comes off the coast of Africa, as you can see, pretty much already as a depression. Then it quickly intensifies here as it moves on throughout the Atlantic. But that's the European, roughly about a week out as well. And even looking at the European AI model, and I find this very interesting because, as I've been saying, the AI models, especially the European AI, have been pretty good at long-range detection of development. And I do believe the European AI, for the first time, is actually aggressive on this signal as well, that the European and the GFS have been showing. And you can see, just like the other two models here, they have this developing and lasting pretty long here throughout the MDR and eventually strengthening as it moves northward into the subtropics. So could this finally be a legit signal here once again next week, and it's going to be August 26th. Just by the time frame, you would think that it is probably going to be a legit signal, and I do think something is going to come out of this. I really do. And taking a look at all of the ensembles as well, you can see here, roughly once we get towards next week, again, another pretty aggressive signal here showing up on the Google AI ensembles. And there's even a little bit of a hint of that, first wave here that the GFS has been cooking up, which kind of springs to life a little bit in the subtropics, but especially focusing here on this very aggressive signal that comes out of the MDR roughly about a week out. And that's what all the other models are showing, and it's being reflected on the Google AI ensembles and definitely the European ensembles as well. And especially the European ensembles here, I pay attention to very closely, as well as the Google AI ensembles. I pay attention to every single model closely, and the fact that every single model has this signal, again, it stirs that thought in your mind. Potentially, is this the one? Is this actually going to be something legit? For real now, for real this time. No more of these fake signals that the models keep showing. And obviously there is a aspect too of weather conditions will allow it, but once again, it's going to be late August. And by that time, yes, we will still have a very strong El Nino, which will have its impacts on the Atlantic with dry air and shear, but just climatologically speaking, the Atlantic, just background state-wise, as we get into late August, just naturally becomes more favorable, and usually something always happens. So I have reason to believe that this next signal around a week out will finally be the one that we need to watch. But of course, we will see. Maybe Mother Nature is planning on pushing back things once again, but we are heading into the peak of the hurricane season here, and that is all I could say at this point. And in terms of what exactly happens from here on out when it comes to land impacts or exact track, don't even think about it right now. Just focus on the fact that potentially the Atlantic will be coming into the cards with potentially a legit signal rising right now for next week. And of course, as well, we'll be watching and seeing how things evolve for Hawaii, as they might have yet another threat to watch over the next few days here. So we will also be keeping a very close eye on that. In fact, probably focusing more on that here in the next few days, and then focusing afterwards more closely on the Atlantic. But with that being said, that's going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, turn on the notification bell and share this video as well, and share my channel too with family and friends and everyone else out there, especially if they're interested in tropical tracking content and they want to stay on top of the tropics. Please be sure to share my videos and recommend me to everybody or anybody you know, and tell them to subscribe, because we will be continuing these videos on a daily basis from now all the way to the end of hurricane season. So I hope you guys all stay tuned for that. Again, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Danilo Evangelista. Stay safe. And of course, I'll be back with more tomorrow.